everyone, and welcome to episode number 12. That's right, 12 of our shenanigans. We are the only podcast that features a UCF National Champion, a former UCF radio host, and several podcasters shooting the breeze talking about UCF sports. And this week, we've got a little extra for you. So we've got a new member of the show to introduce to you. As you can see, I am popping my collar. Trey, of course, let me down without a collar again this week. I'm doing this for Josh, since Josh will not be with us this week and Alan will be out. I am going to say this. I think Josh just needs to take the rest of the season off, because every time he's off of the show, we win. So, I'm superstitious. I know Trey's superstitious. So I think that's a thing now. So Josh, I'm sorry, wherever you're listening from. I did hear sports related. He did play his first round of golf this week. So good for Josh, bad for whoever's playing with him. I hope he's playing best ball and drinking lots of alcohol, because that'll make it a lot more fun. All right, so bringing in the show this week, I'm going to bring Trey Neal to the stage. What's up, Trey?
What's up? I'm not really superstitious. I was just superstitious before I played. That's it. Everything else, nothing. I don't really care.
Yeah, well, when we're talking about we're talking about game day, though. So game day superstition. So I think for Josh, it's, hey, you're going to have to set at least until we get bowl eligible.
Yeah.
Once he's bowl eligible, then we can come back. So he's got at least one more game, hopefully, to sit out before he comes back. And then new to the stage, before I bring this person on, we've heard you loud and clear. Everybody complains about our students. How they only halfway fill up the student section in the north end zone. They don't know as much history about UCF. So we've decided we're going to educate the student population and get their perspective. And we're going to be welcoming Noah to the show. Noah is an actual UCF student currently enrolled. He's going to be our intern for both shows, actually. So he's going to get stuck with us for at least 4 hours a week and listening to our drivel. So I'm sorry ahead of the time for that, but we're excited to have you on and helping us out. So welcome to the show, Noah.
I'm excited to be here. Excited to listen to the drivel.
Yeah, exactly. And I may have to kick him back off stage, because he's officially got the best hair on the show. So congratulations to you. Keep it while you can. Eventually it'll turn gray and fall out like mine has. So enjoy it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into a little bit of text talk. Now, Noah is new to our text thread, so he got added after the game, so he cannot participate in this. So it's just Trey and I. So I'm actually going to do text talk this week, but we'll start with Trey. So Trey, why don't you share your text talk for this week?
Yeah, so my first one is, Roger, you actually said you were like, the sideline is lit. And I think it was after the second tipped interception that we got. I mean, hey, that momentum is huge in this game. And you want to be on the right side of it most of the time, as we've seen with these tipped interceptions this season. So I'm glad that we were on the right side of it this year. And then I think that helped a lot, just the sideline, the energy, and getting those turnovers, it helps a lot, So I think that was my first text talk.
Well, I mean, it started right away, right? So JRP hits that long bomb on the first reception of the first play, and it's like, all right, everybody was lit. Like, okay, if JRP is going to throw like this,
it's going to be a fun night.
Yeah, exactly. And he, to his credit, he took it the rest of the way. So what's your second one?
Yeah. So my second one was, Alan said, looks like all our score predictions were wrong. One thing about it, when it ends up like this, I'm glad to be wrong. I'm glad when because we've been choosing close games in the Big 12 games for the most part this year. So, hey, if we're on the right side of a blowout, let me be wrong. I have no problem with it.
Well, didn't Alan say something like 16-13 this week or something?
Yeah, it was low scoring. Yeah.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah. My third one and my last one was, Alan also said, he was like, how did we hold Gordon to 25 yards? Listen, we have been preaching this all season, that if we want to stop, I've been saying it all year, but if we got to stop the run, we have to load the box. I think this was the first game where we put more hats in the box to dedicate to stop the run and say, listen, corners, you're really on an island. You're getting no help. We have to stop the run. And I think that's what we did. So if you want to, how did Alan, your answer, how did we stop, held Gordon to 25 yards? We put everybody in the box and put our corners on the island. And that's what we have to do if we want to stop.
Well, and I think too, I think so. I think the edges, actually maintaining the edges, the guys weren't getting turned inside and biting on runs. For whatever reason, Oklahoma State, I mean, they did try to go, sideline to sideline a little bit to loosen up the box, but just weren't very successful.
Yeah.
And then, once you get in a quarterback's head, we saw it with JRP, right? Once you get in a quarterback's head, it's real easy to keep those tip drills coming. So,
and game script. I mean, when you get down 21-0, 28
4-0 at the half,
4-0, and then it starts raining, that can mess up the whole script, every kind of play.
Well, how far down were you guys against Memphis when it was raining?
Oh, 20. It was 20, 17 or 20, something like that.
It was worse than that. It was pretty bad. Here's your first assignment, intern. Look up the Memphis. That was 2017, right? 2017 Memphis versus UCF score at the half. See if you can find that for us. All right. While he's doing that, the other thing is the interior lineman, right? For whatever reason, they kept trying to run up the middle. And, I mean, Lee Hunter was having none of it. I mean, that guy was a man. Now, he's been showing it all season that he could do it, but he didn't really have much help. John Walker was at his side this week and helped plug up those holes up the middle. And, I mean, really, we'll get into the defense a little bit later, but in between that, maintaining the edges and stacking that box, that really was the key to stopping this rushing attack. And they ended up with like 50 yards for the entire game, but some of that was in garbage time. So, all right, let's see how fast our intern is. Intern, how did we do, Noah?
So for the game last year, 2022?
No, 2017, Memphis UCF. This is when Trey played, back when you were in diapers.
When we played Memphis my junior year,
oof, that's a much.
We were never down to them badly. I think that was the next year. I wasn't.
Oh, was it the next year? Was that 2018?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at the half it was 24-7.
UCF.
At the half, actually it was 31-24.
Okay.
So not that bad.
So what about 2018?
2018.
And while he's looking that up, I'm going to give my text talk. So for me this week, my text talks were both courtesy of Rob, who we haven't seen on the show in a while. He's been MIA, but he still contributes to our text threads. And when the White Claw takes over, it gets a little racy in the old text thread. So he was definitely White Clawing it up for this game. And his first one was, or the first one I chose from him is like, bleep that, storm the field, tear down the goal post, ... I really can't say the rest because again, we're trying to maintain this as a clean show. Let's just say it was doing something to their mascot that we can't say on the show. On top of that, the second one was actually mine. I said, holy bleep, Batman, this game is over. This feels like a release. Josh has to go on vacation more often. So, for me, this game really felt like a release of pent-up frustration. I mean, you saw Gus on the sidelines. This is the first game in a long time I've seen him energetic, just like he was even vibing, right? He was feeling it. You saw everybody on the sidelines. Last week we got the W, but this really felt like just pure joy. I mean, that you saw it on the sidelines. They were all excited. They were cheering each other on, and nobody made a mistake. And, when you see that, you really see that shine through on the broadcast. So I was really excited about that. With all of that being said, Noah?
The score was down. UCF was down 17-30 that year.
Wow.
Yeah, 30-17. It was ridiculous. And then they came back and won. There was rain. That was the Heupel Go Bone game.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, that was ridiculous. So great game on a backup court with a backup quarterback, if I remember correctly, and came back to win. So moving on, let's go ahead and talk about what I affectionately called Mullet Mania last week, which is, of course, a reference to that rug that looks like roadkill that is on top of Mike Gundy's head. I will say this about Coach Gundy. I joke about his rug because there's no way all of that is that black and thick and the rest of it's just, a little gray on the edges there. He's not just fermenting that, folks. That's got to be a raccoon on the side of a Texas road that just migrated to his head somehow. Huh. But honestly, he's a great coach. I love listening to him speak. He's been very successful for many years. I think we said last week he was an 18-year tenured coach, and he even said it himself. They got out-coached. They weren't prepared for what we were going to do. And it's funny because, he said in his preview of the game, he said, they're going to try to run the ball, and they know we're going to try to run the ball. And, they knew exactly what we were going to do defensively. I think the difference this week for me, Trey, defensively, and why it was so dominant, our run fits were correct. The guys, the linebackers in the zones, they weren't too close to the line of scrimmage. They weren't too far back. So they were in the right spots in their zones when they were in soft coverage, so that we could rush. We were getting penetration because we brought that extra defender into the box, and we were getting there. Early on, I think their quarterback had like 8 or 9 throws in a row, which were short passes where they were trying to break us up and make sure that we were moving out of the tackle box. But they weren't successful with it. We stuck to our guns. The defensive line just had their way, and the defensive backs did a pretty good job as well, other than, the turnovers. I mean, whenever you have 4 turnovers in a game and the other team has none, it's very hard to win a game. And 2 tip drill interceptions. Jordan Johnson had a crazy tip drill in the middle. He just kind of came back, went further back, jumped up, tipped it, went right to Damari Henderson, who had 2 picks this game, which was kind of nuts. And by and large, other than the JRP fumble that turned into another pick in the end zone, we stayed relatively clean. So other than that, there wasn't really too much to complain about. So Trey, just as a preview, I did change your segment to Trey prays to a cloud as opposed to yells at a cloud for this week. So Trey, what were your thoughts overall on the game? We'll talk about the offense a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit more about the defense, but overall, what were your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that could have went right for us, it went right. A lot of the times where we executed and need to execute, we did it. We played pretty clean football on both sides. I think this was probably the first game where on both sides we played clean football from the beginning to the end. Overall, early on, I had complaints about tackling. I had complaints about run fits. Didn't have those complaints defensively. Offensively, sticking to the running the football, airing it out when you should, not turning the ball over. Didn't have those complaints offensively. So we've shown glimpses of this early, but this game, I think we put it all together all the way through. And again, I think they played clean. And when you do that, and then you have a couple of bounces go your way, which
four bounces go our way, Quattro.
We didn't have them like that this year. So,
bro,
when you do,
it was the football gods giving us what we lost over like 6 games back. It was all in one game. It was completely nuts.
So it was one of those things where when that happens and then the fans are rocking, it's hard to, again, I say it's hard to beat us at home when you have the fans rocking, man. It's tough. So, I think we played a clean game all around for 4 quarters. Even
when it rained.
Yeah.
It rained and they stayed, and they were more raucous than what they were normally when it's bright and sunshine.
That's what they want to see. If we're exciting, I mean, that's again, I said it a couple of weeks ago about what our brand is. If we are an exciting team, which this was the Frost era kind of football, we're scoring a bunch of points, we're creating a bunch of turnovers and dominating. That's what UCF fans want to see. That was the peak of what I think UCF should be. And when they're playing like that, the fans will stay there all game. They'll stay there all night, and they'll party all night.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned Frost era, and when I thought about it, it was like when we went up 14-0 in the first quarter. I mean, we were always up. We always scored 21 points, 14-21, but usually 21 points in the Frost era, right?
Yep.
And we just went fast. We had those bang bang big plays. We did it through the air. And I think that kind of threw them for a loop because everybody's expecting JRP not to be able to throw. Mm-hmm. And, we talked about it before. JRP with his leg, he's not going to be able to drive the ball up the field, right? And he wasn't able to run. And what was different and what you saw is how this offense is supposed to run. You've got a quarterback that is not only able to pass the ball consistently and be able to drive through that leg for the most part. He doesn't have his 4.3 speed back. He's not as shifty as he was. But what he did was when everybody was keying in on Harvey, he would go to the left, right? Run to the left, and they would bite on Harvey. He would go to the left, go get 10 yards, right?
Yeah, he might not be 4.3 anymore, but he's still a 4.5 JRP is still a fast JRP. So I think, again, early on, when he came back, he was probably 50% of what he could do.
I wouldn't even say that. I mean, they just had him back there handing the ball off.
Yeah, and I think that could be being generous, like you said. But he's getting back to feeling better. He, like you said, he might not be, the home run hitter every time he runs. But he's enough now to where he is a liable threat to get a lot of yards, not just get, 4 or 5 yards. He can get 10, 15-yard chunks. And like you said, he's sliding, which it keeps him healthy. Which again, that facet of the offense is what we've been missing a little bit. And we'll get to that a little bit, once we start diving in.
Yeah. So like, it's you're always, we always talk about mismatches and trying to create mismatches, right? And we're doing that with numbers. So if everybody's crowding the box and trying to stop Harvey. We have good enough linemen, and the linemen did great this weekend. By the way, shout out to Pauli at center. Man had 7 snaps at center his entire college career, and he went out there and dominated at center. Now, there were a few snaps. There were like 4 or 5 snaps that were kind of, iffy, either a little low or a little high. But considering that this guy is not a center, has not played center, we had Beulah Schmidt go out with a ankle problem. Drake Metcalf, for those of you who remember him early in the season, had some issues, to say the least. So, we rolled with Pauli, and he did a phenomenal job both on the run and the pass blocking. So, more power to him to be able to do that. And when we start talking about this, if they stack the box, that means we have 2 dangerous receivers on the edges. We talked about this all week, being able to use both of them. This week we used both of them, right? Yep. We've been using the tight ends more, right? And we use the tight ends again. So if JRP was getting hung up and Harvey was getting contained, they had good enough pass blocking to be able to throw the ball. If that didn't happen, they had the short passes, which we've been missing all season. Remember, quick slants. What are we talking about going over the middle? They have the tight ends because we have a pass-catching tight end that they actually have confidence in. So that opens up Holler, too, because everybody was, putting their best guys on Holler. Now you've got a pass-catching tight end. That opens up both sides. And when they're crowding the box like that and we want to pass the ball, what are we doing? We're hitting the tight ends at the edges to kind of spread them out and hopefully get them out of the box. So, you've really got 4 threats versus what we had before and what most teams have, which is 2. You either have a running back or you have the ability to throw the ball long. We've got the ability now to run the ball with an amazing running back in Harvey. We've got the ability to run the ball with JRP now that he's back. So you've got to spy him. And they weren't spying on JRP early, but after his second or third run, they started spying him. And what that means is you're taking that person out of the box and opening up things for Harvey. Yep. Then you spread the edges with the tight ends, and then you've still got the long ball whenever you need it. And they weren't dropping passes despite it being wet. And and they weren't making mistakes. Just like the defense, we talked about them being in the right spots, the right run fits, playing, soft in their coverage where they needed to play so that they could disrupt or create tight windows. That's what we've been missing, because every time those linebackers would be out of position, they wouldn't be around the first down marker. And what ended up happening, right? They didn't get off the field. The windows were too big. You saw the defense run like it's supposed to run this week. So I'm hoping we build off that same way offensively. We saw the offense move the way that they're supposed to be moving. Hudson had 3 TDs this week, one of which was off of that crazy, hey, guess what? We even figured out how to get a free play for once.
Yeah, I know, right?
We didn't screw it up this week.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, when you've got RJ Harvey running, they're creating space in the middle, 206 yards for him this week. You've got a healthy JRP. You've got Hudson with 3 TDs. We started off with X. We got X back this week, Xavier Townsend. He was that first pass, right? And so he's dangerous. We didn't have him for a while. And then Baker was, he was back to pulling the 50-50 balls like he's capable of, and doesn't have some crazy drop that, we see every other week. So when you have all of those weapons, this is the offense that we were expecting to see for this year, but we have not. This was the defense that we were hoping we would see after the first 2 games, but we did not. So it all came together for a complete game. Even our punter in the rain was punting 40+ yards per punt. So the only real gripe I have this week, if I were going to yell at a rain cloud, it would be that our coverage on the kick returns was terrible. These guys, I mean, they had these guys blocked up, and then they let them go out to the side. It's like, hey, listen, if you're the gunner, you got to get down there and make sure you got the angles so you're funneling them up to the middle so that you're the rest of your guys that are coming down are able to tackle if you can't make the tackle. So that was the one thing this week.
I mean, again, like you said, this was probably the cleanest game we've played all year from start to finish, from every aspect. I mean, again, you look back at the beginning of the year, yeah, we were beating teams, but us being guys who played and guys who watched a lot of football, we saw issues that were not really good things, but we were just more talented. This game, those issues were cleaned up. This is what I think our team could be if we played clean football all year. This is the kind of team that I thought we had. When you talk about the talent everywhere, I mean, it was shown everywhere from the back end to up front. Like on defense, it was shown from the offense. I mean, if this is our offense all season, there's no way you can stop it. We can only stop ourselves. Like that is what we expected coming into this season. So again, there's nothing to complain about from this game from my perspective. And like I said, when we get to my normal Yell at Cloud segment, I'm not going to have much. It's going to be a lot of positive going on with it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what the rest of college football expected, right? Yeah. Everybody expected a lot out of us.
Yeah, especially with the guys we had coming back offensively. We had questions defensively, but the talent was there. That's what we thought. And again, this is what college football thought we were going to be. They thought, and let me put this out there. We could play this way and we could still lose because the Big 12 is that good this year. And just as the conference in general, you can play this clean and still lose football games because they can play clean too, and they are just as explosive. But the games where we see, where nothing is just looking right, it's terrible on both sides. That's not what we expected from this team. That's not what we expected from this group. So yeah, even though we played super clean, this is the kind of football we want to expect from our team, especially for the rest of this year, and I think even building up upon next year, because we lose some guys, but again, this is a talented place. Gus can recruit his butt off, so guys are gonna want to come play here. So again, I think this is the standard for, this Gus Malzahn group and this, from 2023 finishing the year and going forward. This is the standard of ball that we expect. We don't expect we don't expect them to be 2017 perfect season. Nobody expects that. But we expect we expect explosive football, great defense, and exciting football. That's what we expect, and we got it this week. So
and energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're Miami without the cocaine, so of the 80s, right? So that's who we are. That's
That's the
who we
brand.
are. We're
That's the
energy.
brand.
We're brand. Yeah. We got the swag, right? But it's the swag that's not induced by some drug. So going back to kind of what we were talking about last week, I'm going to ask you this question again, Trey. Last week we talked about, did this team turn the corner with Cincinnati and specifically defensively? And you were like, nah, they didn't do it. They didn't do it. It wasn't them. What do you think this week?
I think we have turned the corner. The reason I was so hesitant last week was because we should have beat Cincinnati. I think even me and Alan were talking about it. Yeah. I mean, even me and Alan were saying we didn't play a clean brand of football, and we still beat Cincinnati because we're just a better team than them. This week, you cannot play that way versus Oklahoma State, or they're going to run you out of the gym. But we played a clean football game. So you build up upon that. Now I feel like we've turned the corner because we just beat, again, we don't really think about rankings, but when you have a good team coming in to play you. When you have good players coming into play.
I guarantee you they knew they were number 15, and all the noise that they were hearing, especially the defense, about how poor they were. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them heard it from us. I mean, you were saying, you were talking with some of the other former players when they were there for homecoming.
Yep.
They heard the noise. I mean, there were former players we were talking about last week or week before last. There were former players out there spouting off on social media.
Twitter, yeah.
You best believe that those guys know what's being said about them, especially in this NIL age, because it's all about brand. I mean, you have Javon Baker out there all the time, like out there on Twitter talking about NIL and everything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So, again, I feel like now they've turned the corner because this is the team this was a good win. Like, you can go out and say we beat the number 15 team, Oklahoma State. That's something you should be proud about. Last week, beating Cincinnati, to me, that's not something you go around, we beat the 2-7 Cincinnati Bearcats. Okay, good job. You should have. That's nothing to pat your back about and make you seem like that was a great job. Good win. You did what you're supposed to do. But this win versus Oklahoma State, with all the circumstances, all the problems, all the question marks about, hey, can you guys do this again? This was the game that they should be proud about and continue to build on. So I do think they turned the corner.
And shut down the number one running back in the country, who now no longer will have a Heisman invite after this game.
Yeah, the thing about the Heisman is you have one dud, especially at running back. It's a lot easier at quarterback. But at running back, you have one dud game. And then this late in the year, you might get away with it early, but this late, man, it's over. Sadly,
it's tough.
It's going to be tough to bounce back. I think it's 2 games left, 3 games left.
2 games.
Yeah, depending on
the regular season.
Depending if they play in the conference championship, which I don't think so.
They got a good shot if they win their last 2 games. They've got tiebreakers over Kansas,
Oklahoma.
So the only one they don't have is K-State. So they have a good shot at it. I mean, in spite of taking that L.
The Heisman campaign might be, unless he just goes out and runs for 500 yards the next 2 games, he probably won't get an invite.
Easy.
Yeah,
and I think they're playing Houston next game, so that's a distinct possibility.
Yeah, that's possible.
I could see 700 yards on Houston, but Noah, you've been awfully quiet. Let's get your feedback. I know you at least watched the highlights. So what did you think about this game compared to what you have heard about UCF or the other games and experiences you may have indulged in?
Well, my only experience with UCF football was when my friends would go to games, they'd say that sometimes it would just be bad losses. And then my personal experience with the football game is just being in traffic afterwards. I went home from work, and what was a 15-minute drive turns into an hour and a half. But anyway, I did watch the highlights, and that was just an insane trouncing. Like, it made them look like a joke. It was like the defense, especially like getting those 2 interceptions, was just insane to watch. Those tip balls. I love when stuff happens like that in a game.
Exactly.
Except when it's off Javon Baker twice in a game, or whatever. So
yeah. But yeah, no, that was insanely satisfying to watch.
That post-game traffic, man, is
bro. Here's the secret. So
remember, Roger, there's no point of even leaving. There's no point.
Well, no, I mean, what did we used to do? And here's the secret. See, what you do is you park, and then you go hang out at the post-game tailgates with people, and then you leave, and then you're good. So that's what, and it also gives you a reason to tailgate. So, you tell your girlfriend, hey, sorry, I got to stop and tailgate because I can't get home otherwise. So, you told me you had a girlfriend. This is your perfect excuse to go tailgate after work, bro. Come on.
Sounds good.
We got to give them a life lesson, Trey.
Yeah, definitely might use that.
There you go. All right, so I'm going to keep you on center stage. I mean, there's not much else to say about this game other than, I mean, this is what we want. This is what the fan base needed. This is what Gus needed. You could see like how like much pent up energy, because that he's never had that many losses in a row, like ever, and the players needed it. And guess what? We had 100 recruits on campus for this game, so it was good to have those guys on there. A lot of guys that, like for example, Tavion Swint was supposed to go to FSU. They're coming after him really heavily, 4-star running back. And, guess what? He chose to stay in Orlando. He told FSU to pound sand. Yeah. So, that was a great showing. You saw a lot of the local Orlando guys going all out, and that's what you want to see. So, before we get to our Bellringer battle preview, we're going to do a little intern re-education. So one of the things about Noah, and one of the things, the students have a bad rap. A lot of them, you hear they'll go out there and they'll drink and they'll have fun and they'll leave at halftime to go to, night library or, whatever they're going out to after the game or during the game, actually. So, since Noah is a very hardworking student, we're going to educate him a little bit with regard to UCF football and bring him up to speed on some of our history. And so for our listeners out there and our viewers, what we'd like to do is, in the comments, just make sure that you're putting in there something for Noah that he needs to learn about UCF football that we have not included. So first of all, Noah, you should always fill the stadium. I don't care that you have to wait 2.5 to 3 hours outside before you're allowed in just to get in, which, Terry, you might be able to do something with that. I'm just saying. It doesn't matter. I know you've been, by halftime, you've been in the hot sun for 5.5 hours. I don't care. You guys are 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. If you can't handle 5.5 hours of Florida sun, tell me how all the 40 and 50-year-olds are doing it in the parking lot, drinking from 8 a.m. until kickoff. You guys can do this. I promise you. Number two, Cal U, we kind of talked about this offline, but whenever referencing the directionally challenged school from West Central Florida, that is accepted. Cal U is accepted. Mu U is accepted. Always have lowercase u SF whenever you're spelling that out. Never capitalize the Cal's initials. And just make sure that any chance you get, you're making fun of them, because for a very, very long time they did that to us, and now we have their head coach or former head coach that started their program and got them to the mythical number 2 in our stadium this week, saying how great it is and how the Cows have done such a poor job of not being UCF by having the stadium filled and everything else. Yes. So this is their great savior. So make sure any chance you get, and always remember that Matt Grothe was and will always be a beer truck driver. And that's their greatest quarterback ever. So just remember that. For quarterbacks, UCF, Mackenzie Milton is the greatest quarterback ever for UCF, arguably. Then Blake Bortles. Do you know who Blake Bortles is?
Yeah, I've heard that name before. Yeah.
All right. So you know the boat. Do you know who Dante Culpepper is?
Culpepper sounds familiar, but I don't think so, no.
Okay. So Dante Culpepper was a star at UCF just before we transitioned to FBS. He actually came to us actually right after we went to FBS. He actually came to us. He was the highest recruited quarterback in the state of Florida at the time. He was having some challenges making grades. Our guys stuck with him, hung with him, helped him do what he needed to do to qualify. And he stuck with his commitment to UCF. He was one of the best college football quarterbacks ever. The man could move. You talk about John Rice Plumlee, but think about John Rice Plumlee at like 6'4" and 200 and some odd pounds
with a bazooka arm.
Yeah, with a bazooka arm. He ended up playing in the NFL. He played for the Vikings. He played for a bunch of other people. Great college quarterback. I would love to see what he could do now in today's offenses with his mobility and just how big he was. Boat was great at running people over, right? He wasn't that fast, but he would just run anybody over. Culpepper had speed, he had shiftiness, and he had size.
Dante Culpepper is what – you know Josh Allen on the Bills?
Yeah.
That's who Dante Culpepper was before him. That kind of player.
Okay.
But faster and shifty.
Getting an image now, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to moderate it a little bit.
All right. So something for you to remember, the reason why we don't hate FSU as much as we do the rest of the Florida schools, back when UCF had its burgeoning football program and had almost had to shut it down because of lack of funds, Florida State actually supported UCF's football program. So things like they gave us shoes so that our players had shoes. That's why we call them Free Shoes U, because they gave us socks. They gave us shoes. They actually, I don't know if have you ever watched something called Smokey and the Bandit? And again, this predates me, but do you know Smokey and the Bandit?
I heard Smokey and the Bandit, but I've never
all right. Do you know the actor who was the guy driving the Trans Am? Burt Reynolds.
Oh, yes.
FSU player, but also lived in Orlando and supported UCF quite a bit. He actually gave us our first night, the horse that goes out on the field. He gave us the first one. It was his own personal one. He did a lot of fundraisers for us so we could continue the program. That's why we don't hate Free Shoes U as much as we do, or Crab Legs U, or whatever you want to call them, as much as we do Miami and UF and the Directionally Challenged School from West Central Florida. Our first noise penalty game was against Troy. We actually got a noise penalty. This was we had 30,000 people that were in the stands. This was back when we were playing. I think Troy was the MAC at the time, and it was the first time in UCF history that we had one of the largest attendances for that size. We got a noise penalty. We tore down the goalposts at the Citrus Bowl. I think we were 0-11, and we beat Marshall at home and tore down the goalposts.
Oh, yeah.
We are the only school to go through all of the divisions, Division III all the way up to P5, the only school that's ever done that. We are also the youngest Power 5 program, or Power 4 as it is now. We did win a national championship. It's on page 115 of the NCAA rulebook. So if anybody ever says that to you, just tell them page 115 of the rulebook. It shows that we won a national championship. Trey, I'm going to turn this over to you. Can you give us some GOLisms from your time with George O'Leary.
Yeah, Coach O'Leary we refer to him as White Horse as a former player. The reason we do that was obviously he was an older man, gray hair, like white.
That's racist.
No. He was just an older man with gray hair. That's it. There's nothing racist about it. But yeah, so whenever he would walk around or whenever, like, say we're going to the locker room and we see him coming down the hall, because again, the man stayed in his office, came to meetings, went to football practice, and went home. If you saw him anywhere else, we'd be like, alert White Horse, just to let our guys know, like, hey, he's coming around. You guys fooling around, you need to be on your P's and Q's. He loved to call people like, come over here, Ace. He didn't really refer to us as our names. The guys that he would say his names to, he loved them. Like Jacoby Glenn, Clayton Gathers, Blake Board. Like, he would say their names because he loved those guys. Yeah, I mean, he was a older school kind of guy. So no.
What about the ants, man? What are you talking about? The ants?
Oh yeah, we need a bunch of we don't want any roaches on our team. We want a bunch of ants because ants just follow the leader. They don't have any issues. They stay in line. Roaches, whenever you turn the lights on, they scramble and do crazy stuff. Like he used to always say, we want a bunch of ants, not a bunch of roaches. But yeah, again, he was an old school military kind of style kind of guy. So no nonsense. Had faces, no beard. Like, you all see all the beard we got now. All we could have was mustache. Just he loved the New York Yankees. Yeah, he modeled his team after the Yankees. So
names on the back of jerseys.
Yeah, clean shaven, no names on the back of jerseys. Couldn't have hair past your shoulders unless he really, really liked you. That was he would turn the eye to that. But yeah, he was very old school kind of guy.
What about the worst Black Friday uniforms ever? I think you should share that story.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't here for that, but I remember.
You remember people talking about it, though, right?
Yeah, it was all black jerseys. They were supposed to be. I mean,
first time ever.
Everybody's supposed to be excited. It was all black with the helmet was black with the off gold. It wasn't even the right gold stripe down the middle. It was just ugly. So.
And then they came out with the yellow jersey top instead of the all black.
Yeah,
so
yeah. It was bad. But overall, Coach O'Leary, he had a lot of funny phrases, but yeah, he was a cool guy. Very old school though. That's the one thing. He was 30 minutes early to meetings. Like, he was very military, no nonsense kind of guy.
So that statue outside of the stadium, when you walk by it, of that deformed old man holding the football, and that's not George O'Leary's fault, right? That was just a terrible, sculpture of him. That is George O'Leary, and what he's known for. He really built the program. He got our stadium built for us. He really pushed the program forward. He took us from 0-15. And turn it around really, really, really quickly. We've done that twice where we've turned it around the next year. So the other team was, of course, Trey's 2015 team. It was 0-12?
0-12, yeah.
Yeah, 0-12. Wow. So that was how Trey started his career at UCF, and I blame him.
No. I was there the year before. I just didn't play.
Oh, you were in 2014.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So the other thing, you will drink Citronauts and like it. The spiked Citronauts makes them even better. You are missing out on the chicken sandwiches at the Student Union, and I can't remember the name of the place now for some reason. Oh, we lost Trey. Trey just dropped out. He must have run out of juice. But there's Trey. He's back. All right, let me bring Trey back. Bro, you not only froze, you dropped out of the whole stream.
I think I accidentally clicked something because I was like, what the heck just happened?
I thought you just hated chicken sandwiches because as soon as he mentioned those, you dropped. You were out. You were gone.
Those chicken sandwiches at the Student Union? Oh, my gosh. What was the name of that restaurant, Roger?
I was just saying that. I can't remember. No, not Huey Magoo's, bro. This is way before.
Huey Magoo's is amazing, though. I'm not going to lie.
But not compared to what we're talking about. I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now. Oh, my gosh. What was that? We were just talking about it like a few weeks ago where we were in there hanging out, watching games. Yeah, you find it. We'll move on to the next thing. By the way, Coach Scott Frost stole everything when he left. So just letting you know
What?
that he stole like all of the recruiting data. He got into it with Heupel when Heupel moved into his office. He was upset about that. And, he did great while he was at UCF. I think he truly did care about UCF, but he left terribly. Memphis, ECU, and the Cows sucked. Those were our original, well, not original, but our longest rivals. And just remember to always hate all the other Florida teams except for Free Shoes U. So now you've been re-educated. There's a lot more UCF history out there. Share it amongst your peers. Make sure that they know that they need to come to games, stay at games, and if the 40 and 50-year-olds can handle it, so can they. All right. So, Trey, if you find that, let me know. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and move over to the Bellringer battle preview. So, if those of you that if that's not ringing a bell for you in Texas Tech or Tortilla Tech, as they're called because they throw tortillas on the field, make sure that you do yourself a favor and search for Bellringer Texas Tech. Let us know in the comments what you find and let the hilarity ensue. That being said, now that we've got Oklahoma State out of the way, we need to talk about Texas Tech. So Texas Tech is an interesting team. Texas Tech is very much like us. They are 5-5. They are 4-3 in conference, where we are not, obviously. We open up as 3-point dogs. We are playing at Texas Tech for this game. The last game that they played, they beat KU or Kansas University 16-13. So maybe that's where Allen's like spidey senses were gravitating towards. I don't know. But that was kind of eerie, spooky. And they again had their starting quarterback is out, KU. So Bean, who was their starting quarterback before, took over. He was doing really well, and then he went down this game. So they were on their third string quarterback. So they couldn't move the ball as much as what they had in the past. They're Kansas is like a triple option threat, and it doesn't do well if you don't have your two main quarterbacks. So that being said, they did beat Baylor this year, 39-14. I mean, we were beating them worse until the fourth quarter, but whatever. TCU has been down all year this year too. TCU, they beat 35-28, lost to BYU pretty handily, and also lost to Kansas State pretty handily. So, by and large, they've got good size on defense. Their defensive line is actually pretty stout. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the offensive line does this week against them. They don't have a lot of depth, though. So they're kind of like us in that they're not able to rotate. So if we're able to run the ball on them, they're going to be in for a long day. They have tended to kind of break down in the fourth quarter. Offensively, they'll try to run the ball quite a bit. Their quarterback, they were on their third string quarterback as well. However, their running back does have 1,170 yards on 226 carries compared to Harvey at 1,082 yards at 170. So he's a volume back. He's not going to beat you for, big carries, but they will wear you down 3 to 4 yards per carry. So that's really what you're going to get. Their quarterback is not that good. He's only averaging something like 6.4 yards per attempt. So again, you're not going to get these big plays from him. It's only to relieve the pressure off of the running back. And they're just going to try to ball control and pound the rock. That's what they have to do because of their quarterback situation. Both are playing for bowl eligibility. And I think this is even more important to Texas Tech this week than it is to us because they play Texas the following week and we play Houston. So I think we have a better chance at us beating Houston than Texas Tech has at beating Texas. So this is really a must win for them. So they're going to be motivated. They're going to be at home. We're both coming off of big wins. Theirs was 16-13 kick and late kick for the win because they were tied 13-13. They kicked a field goal as time expired. Ours obviously was this big emotional outburst. So I'm hoping we carry that momentum forward and don't do what OSU did with Bedlam after beating OU. Their leading receiver obviously is not as good as ours because, we have two really good receivers. Our leading receiver, Javon Baker, has over 700 yards. Their leading receiver has 523 yards. His name is Jaron Bradley. His last game, though, he went 4 for 91 yards. So if you take 100 yards off of that, he didn't do as well, but he went off last game for chunk plays. Last game, Brooks, which is their running back, he ran for 33 carries for 133 yards. That's not a great average, right? That means that they're just going to pound in the rock and somehow won. And, when you have a 16-13 game, that's what you see. Their defense is what's going to keep them in this game. So if we go off offensively early, kind of like what we did this week, they're going to have to rely on their quarterback. And if they rely on their quarterback, there's going to be funky things happen and we're going to roll them. Morton is their QB. He's currently 64% passer. And the most important part, having not started all of the games, he's already got 12 sacks. So you can get pressure on their offensive line. You can, he isn't as good as escaping. So if we can get pressure on them, and get them off the field. And, if we maintain our 50% third downs and get up early and often, it's going to be a long day for Texas Tech / Tortilla Tech, et cetera. And just to be sure, right, they don't do hard shells. They do soft shells. I just want to make sure everybody knows that they throw soft shells. That's pretty much it. What I have on Texas Tech. I expect them to try to pound the rock. If we do as well as we did at making them one-dimensional and stopping their run, 33 attempts, you're going to have 60 or some odd plays. If they have 33 attempts, it's not going to be good for them. Last week, OSU had 39 attempts and passing the ball and only was able to complete 19. So I think it's that same type of quarterback. If we can, keep them, stack the box again this week, I think we're going to be in good shape. Trey, do you have anything else to add to that?
Not really. The only kind of caveat would be this is Texas Tech. This will be their last home game, so this is their senior day. I can tell you that guys will play a little bit harder on senior day. Even when we were 0-12, the seniors wanted to win that game because you never want to lose your senior day game. So, again, I don't think they're a great team. I think Roger kind of laid out the formula we have. If we stick to it, we should beat them. They have their strengths. They have their weaknesses, just like all teams do, but they might have a little bit more incentive just being, this is going to be a lot of those guys' last time playing, at that stadium. So our guys got to weather that kind of initial storm and just play football, and I think we should be able to beat them.
Yeah, if we can move the ball offensively against their defensive line, as long as our offensive line can give JRP time, and I think that's why it's the perfect time for JRP to kind of find his legs again, because, again, they're not going to be able to key in on that running back to stop him. If we play a lot of that RPO style where he just either keeps or hands it off, it's going to stretch that defense out. They're going to have to keep a spy on him, which takes one person out of the box, because JRP does do a good job of continuing to run while the play is going. So a lot of times you can't tell. We'll bring that end around, and I think that's why last week you did see a jet sweep in there, which we haven't seen for a while, because we want to keep them honest to say, hey, that motion man may get the ball if you guys don't make sure that you adjust your coverage there as well. People forget it may not be the right play against this team, but it may be the team. It may be a play for the next team to keep them honest for what you're really trying to do.
And yes, coaches do think that far ahead. There's games where I remember in the past they were running plays to set up when you're playing a team a month later. Like, coaches are thinking that far ahead as far as giving people what they want to put on film and things like that.
Yeah, tendencies, right? You're trying to show tendencies and trying to break tendencies. So let me say this about that too. By the way, Johnny Richardson, every time that man is in, he gets the ball.
He's getting the football. Yeah, I mean,
they gotta stop doing that, right? Because if you know he's going on the field, all you got to do is key on the running back.
And another problem is the only time he doesn't get the ball when he's on the field is if we're running Wildcat, because most of the time RJ does not give the jet sweep. Like, it's extremely, extremely rare.
I don't think I've seen him hand it off yet.
Yeah, but that's the only time you'll ever see Johnny Richardson on the field not getting the football. Like, those are the kind of tendencies as guys we've played that you pick up on. And to me, I'm just like, just give it once so that you have it on film that you can give it. Like, I'm telling you, if I were playing and I saw Johnny Richardson and RJ and Wildcat, I would disregard the pitch man, because it's 10 weeks now. For 10 weeks, we haven't given it. So with the
if I were Gus Malzahn, this is the week that I'd be giving it.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like, just for, like we're saying with tendencies, if for 10 weeks you run this play maybe 40, 50 times, and 50 times you've never given it, I'm gonna play my odds with that. Like, that's just, if you guys give it and I don't do it, well, you got me the one time. But I'm gonna play my odds.
If we're seeing it, the analysts are seeing it.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we were saying this a month ago. We never give the jet sweep. And again, I don't know the reasoning. I'm not in the meetings, but again, like you said, if we can see it, the guys who are charting each plays, doing the breakdowns, because they have guys.
Or if you're in Michigan, you're in you're in the opposing
they were in the cabana.
Video camera people.
Yeah, they're in the cabana having a few drinks and doing some charting.
Some surreptitious videoing with those Google glasses. That's what they're doing.
But yeah, like, again, if we can see it, then everybody should be able to see it.
All right, so Trey.
Yes.
I'm going to keep you up, and, we're going to start this segment, like I said, not Trey yells at Cloud, Trey prays to Cloud. So what were you thankful for this week when you watched UCF football?
I was just thankful that for the first time this season, knowing that we have not stopped the run all year, our coaches were like, you know what? We're going to put as many people as we can in the box and stop the run. I've been telling us in the group,
we both have.
Yeah, offline, like, when you stop the run, you are going to give your chance. You're going to give yourself a chance to win a football game, because 99%, 95% of the quarterbacks can't just beat you in the air. Now, that 5% that can just throw the ball all over the field and beat you, they can do that. And there are guys who can. But most of the teams that we've played, especially this year, the only guys who have tried to throw it on us was Oklahoma. And we're built to stop that. So that was the one thing we'd harped on all year, was just, let's just dedicate an extra hat to the run. Let's load the box and stop the run. This game, what do? You playing the number one running back in the country as far as rush yards. He was building up a good Heisman case. We put everybody in the box, and we're like, listen, if you're going to beat us today, he's not beating us. You're going to have to beat us through the air. And they couldn't do it. So that's what I'm glad to see, that finally, even though it was a couple of weeks, maybe a month late, at least they're adjusting. We want to see these adjustments a lot sooner, but hey, progress. They're making the adjustments. Maybe, like you said, they might be listening to this show, but hopefully that they can continue to make these adjustments, because the talent we have at the DB position, I don't know if you guys saw, like Nakai Martinez, he's a sophomore. Braden Marshall, true freshman. The guys that we're bringing in.
Braden Marshall. All right, so Braden Marshall is living up to the billing. Not only on his ability. What I love about Braden Marshall, he's got a nose for the open space tackle, right? He does really good in space.
That's an instinct. That's something to me that you can't teach that. Like, that is something that's just a feel for the game. That's just football. Like, you just tell him, hey, go make the play. He's just going to make the play. And the guys can't do that. And like you said, I've been telling you that's the guy that I thought was going to be the starting nickel from the beginning. I don't know what the reason was. I wasn't in the meeting room, so I don't know. But what we're starting to see.
I mean, he was a true freshman. I mean, it takes a while for those guys to catch on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think it's been clicking. Like, I think there were moments that he flashed, but then he'd mess up. And I think finally it's starting to click for him. And that's why you see, I mean, he was a highly sought after player for a reason. Like, he was a talented recruit. And I think now we're starting to
it was us and UNC, and he chose us.
Yeah. So again, I think with just the guys you can get just naturally in Florida, always kids that can run and cover. That's what Florida specifies in a lot. Let those guys do what they do. These kids from a young age are out there. I can go play man coverage. I can play in space and cover a receiver. That's what a lot of these guys can do. So let them do it. So I'm glad that we finally did that. And then offensively, everything clicked perfectly. JRP is looking back healthy. The offense looks how we thought it would look, throughout at the beginning of Big Ten play before he got hurt. This is what we thought.
Hold on, Big Ten, we got promoted?
Big 12. Sorry.
Well, we run all over the Big Ten because they can't score more than 10 points. I mean, Iowa's going to be in the conference championship, averaging like 7 points a game.
Yeah. So I think that this was this is the performance from start to finish that we expected for the most part of the year. So again, there's nothing to complain about, man. I'm thankful that we were able to see the peak of what I think our team could be. I thought we were going to go through this year and be like, there's a lot of what ifs to this team, and we still will have some what ifs. But I think this was our peak as far as how good of a team we could be. We could have been, if we can beat a top 15 team, you should be able to be a top 15 team, in my opinion. That's what I think. So I think this was the peak of what our team could be. This is the kind of talent we had. So I'm thankful we were able to see it at least once just blossom full on the field for a whole game.
All right, folks. And finally, my internet quit and we completely lost my train of thought. So you guys are going to miss out on my genius and my wonderful point of whatever the heck it was that I was saying. I am a remote this week coming to you live from Orlando, which apparently has worse internet than Santa Rosa Beach. So I guess that's why I pay higher taxes up there. I don't know. All right. So going back to what we were saying and picking off where we left, Trey, like we said, the offense was doing great. And like you said, this is what we were looking for all year, and we finally got it. And Night Nation, I'm expecting with Texas Tech or Tortilla Tech or the Bellringers. And please, if you have not seen that, Noah, do you know the Texas Tech Bellringers? Okay. No. I want you to mute yourself real quick, and I want you to go Google Texas Tech Bellringers. And then once you're done, give me like, I don't know, a wave or something, and then tell us what you found. All right. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the hoops review. And this week, we talked about FIU and UCF's dominant win over FIU. This week we were playing, I believe, the 13th rated Miami Hurricanes. This was a matchup that's traded the last 4 years back and forth on who's taking home the win. Last year was a pretty hotly contested. Oh yeah, that face says it all. Hotly contested matchup, and this week was for most of the game up until the last minute. Final score 72-88. After the basketball review, I will get Noah's comments on that. There's multiple ones of that, so just keep looking. 70, those are actually live shots from ESPN, by the way. 72-88 win for Miami. We were playing in Miami. I will have to say this, whoever the folks were that were calling the game, total Miami homers. It was super hard to watch. It was on the ACC network if you didn't get to watch it. And the guy looked like he was getting ready to go to the club and be a DJ. I mean, he had like a straight up shirt on, like nothing professional, like everything else that we were going to say. He was like hitting South Beach right after he just had some Molly. I don't know what was going on with that shirt. But bro, when you're on the ACC network, please just don't do it. Just don't do it. Play somewhat professionally. So Miami, I mean, really won this game with the 3-ball. If you replace the 3-ball and you replace it with twos, we win this game every day of the week. We out rebounded them 38-34, including offensive rebounds 17-6, which in basketball, if you're rebounding offensively, beating them by 17-6, that's a huge margin for you to win. 24 fouls on us, which really hurt us. 18 turnovers as well for both teams. So that was pretty evenly matched. But 24 fouls on us and a whole heck of a lot by Miami. I mean, you'd almost think there was some home cooking going on there. I don't know. I won't say it. I don't like to blame it on the refs because we were still in the game for most of the game. However, it was a little sus. Let's just put it that way, considering we were driving the paint quite a bit more than what Miami was. Miami was just settling for 3-point shots. In fact, in the first half, they were shooting 60% from behind the arc. It was ridiculous. They came out on fire and kept going. They ended up 47.6% from the three. We were 25% from the three. Now that's something we've been missing on this year's team. We just signed or recruited and got a commitment from a shooter here locally. So excited to have him on. Machowski, one of our European transplants. He was 3 for 3 from 3-point land. He's a set shot shooter. So if we're not passing the rock around the arc, we're just not going to. This is not what we're used to having the past 3 or 4 years, where we have someone who can dribble and then shoot, or dribble, drive, and shoot. We're going to have to be able to pass the ball. We did that really well against FIU, not so much against Miami. However, we drove the paint to get fouls. We took it to within 6, and then it just kind of disappeared. So all in all, pretty good game. Sellers had 22 again this week. Johnson had 13. He was forcing things a little bit, which is tough, because when he does that, he's out of control. He didn't really do that the first game. He did it this game. So I'm hoping he kind of gets away from that. He's got enough horses on the team to be able to avoid that. And Allen, Shamari Allen, this game was completely non-existent. He had 2 points. He went 1 for 6 after last week's game where he completely dominated. So I'm hoping this isn't indicative of who he's going to be going forward. And it was just a cold night for him playing in Miami. And, all in all, this team is a lot better than I thought they were going to be so far. Now, our teams always do well out of conference, and then they get in conference. And again, this is the Big 12 conference, the number 1 basketball conference in the country. So it's going to be a lot tougher, but we've still got teams like OSU that we're, going to be going up against, and other teams. So I expect this team to be more competitive. There were questions whether we'd win any games in the Big 12 or, 2 or 3 games in conference play. I actually expect this team to play, competitively, or more competitively than what we expected. So all in all, pretty good game. We kept it close. This was the number 13 team in the country, and the guys did fairly well, and they've kind of started to figuring it out. And remember, we have some key injuries out there as well, which aren't helping matters any. So all in all, for hoops, it was an exciting game. I'm going to keep watching the games. I encourage you to as well. They might surprise you. So that's pretty much it. That's all I have for hoops this week. Women's hoops we'll cover in the other sports. They had another dub this week, and as they kind of get going, we'll talk a little bit more about them. So without further ado, obviously we don't have Alan this week, so I'm going to that was my Hoops in Motion segment. Obviously I was a little late on that considering the technical difficulties we had with Orlando Internet. But this week's Alan's oxymoronic stats of the week. I don't look like Alan. I'd like to think I'm better looking than Alan. Alan, I'm sure, would argue that, but he's not here to argue with me. So I'm going to take the dub, and I'm going to take my stab at the oxymoronic stat of the week. So UCF's 3 points allowed to Oklahoma State were the fewest scored by a top 15 team since October 2022. UCF is 7-0 in space games and have outscored opponents by almost 100 points. So point differential, 100 points in 7 games. 45-3 was the largest margin of victory by an unranked team over an opponent since 1999 when Texas A&M did it. That's a long time, folks. That was my freshman year in college, was 1999. So that tells you how long it's been. It was the largest loss in OSU history. And this is the second time a team under 500 ever has beaten AP top 15 team by 40 plus points. So lots of good came out of this game. And if you're not aware of how good this game actually was, this is one for the ages. Statistically, this is one for the ages that you watch against the number 15 team in the country. This team balled, and it was great to watch. It was a lot of fun, and obviously it was historic. So keep that in mind. Enjoy that for the next loss. All right, folks. We're obviously Josh's sometimes funny fact of the week. We can't do that, unfortunately, because Josh is also gone. So, I don't have any Swiftie songs that I can parody. I know, any local Lubbock, Texas Tech type songs. So, unfortunately, guys, you're going to have to wait until I think the week after next, because I think Josh is out next week as well, which means we'll get a dub. So I'm good with that. But you'll have to look forward to that later. So I am so sorry. All right. That brings us to the Pick Your Poison score prediction. So let's go over last week's score predictions. Alan had UCF 33, OSU 30. These are not the most recent ones. I guess Alan didn't save that for me. Shoot. He had something like 13-10. Josh was out last week, right? So his
score actually might be the closest one.
Yeah, 100-1 was Josh's score. So obviously he is in the running for buying us all steak and Cheetos. Trey, your score was UCF 30, OSU 27. And my score was UCF 32 and OSU 28. So we all thought it was going to be a close game. We all thought it was going to be around 30 to 32 points, but except for Josh, obviously. He was Nostradamus this week. I don't know what happened there. And we ended up scoring a lot more than that. So I guess we've got 2 great scores that we can put on this week. But Trey, for now, what is your poison for this game, and what is your score prediction?
2 weeks in a row, I've gone poison. I've gone positive instead of being terrible. So I think the poison would be that we just come out and we do what we just
No. Hey, we won 2 weeks in a row. So
and my poison
okay,
has been positive things. So since they're positive, we're winning. So I'm gonna keep it positive. Again, we come out efficient. We come out, we tackle. We come out, we move the football, running, passing, efficient football, no turnovers. Mistakes will be made. It's football, but we just need to play clean, and that's going to be my poison. So until we lose, and I give a positive poison, then I'm going to keep it positive. And my score prediction, I'm going to go similar to last week. I'm going to go 30 UCF 38, Texas Tech 24.
38-24 UCF. All right. So you've intently listened here, Noah. So we're actually going to put you on the hot seat this week. We're going to add you to the list, which means every week. That means you're also in the running for buying us steaks and Cheetos. It is not cheap. I'm going to tell you that right now. We are not cheap dates. So every week that you miss, you're closer and closer to buying a steak and Cheetos on a college salary. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that out there. But what is your poison after listening to us ramble, and what is your score prediction for this week?
I'm gonna say UCF 30, Texas 21.
I like it.
All right, so we're not playing UT this week, just so everybody knows. We're playing Tortilla Tech, so it's Texas Tech that we're playing, 30-21. And then what is your poison for this week?
What do you mean?
What's the worst thing that you think could, like, what's the worst?
What could happen that would cause us to lose this game, basically?
I mean, they get the early jump because, like you said, Trey, like the senior day will, I think, be a factor in terms of their energy at the start of the game.
Yeah.
So if you don't shut that down early, it could get them in a momentum, and that'll be a problem later on.
Yep. Momentum's huge. You're right about that.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good observation. See, Trey, when we go the opposite of poison, the new guy doesn't know what to say. So we've got, I'm letting you slide this week because, it's worked so far, and we're going to keep that positivity going as long as we can.
Exactly.
All right. So for me, my poison this week, I'm going to say the same thing that happened to OSU last week, is that, we got the monkey off our back twice in a row. I don't think this is going to happen to us just simply because this is for a bowl game and these guys want to play a bowl game and there isn't like 4 or 5 more chances. I think they're going to get up for this game because they know their backs are against the wall for a bowl game. So, but my biggest poison is a letdown, an emotional letdown, right? So we had this big win, we're dancing on the field. We've got blue lights going everywhere. We've got new video boards, the actual, uniforms, which I was a little underwhelmed with. They looked great. So I think everybody thought they were pretty fresh. Nationally, everybody said they were pretty fresh. So, I think it's all the good from the last 2 weeks off of that pent-up release. We had all that energy around Cincinnati, got that off our back, got a win again. And then we were playing the real Big 12 team. We talked about whether, Cincinnati was a real Big 12 win or not. We got that off our back, and it's the number 15 to boot, and we did it in dominant fashion. So the question is going to be, after that, letting all that emotion out, after letting all that negative energy go, is this team going to have that edge that took them to a win against Cincinnati? Is this team going to have that edge that took them and allowed them to beat the number 15 team in the country and dominate them? My answer to that is yes. I don't think it's going to be as close a score as what you guys think it will be. I think their defense is going to play really well, but we're going to break them early because their linebacking core and their defensive backs aren't as good. Their strength is their defensive line. I think we get loose early, and I say we win this game 38-28. So I think it's a 10-point win. And actually,
that's closer than my score.
Huh?
That's closer than my score. I had 38-24.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I was gonna take that back. I'd say 38-21.
Okay.
I'm gonna Price is Right you. I'm gonna say 38-21 because I think they're going to try to play their game early, and depending on how long it takes our offense to light fire, if they light fire right away, it's going to be worse. If they take a little while, they're going to try to run the ball. If our defense stumbles and doesn't stop them right away, it may take us a little bit for our offense to get going. But I'm going to say 38-21. I think UCF has got a taste of it. They got a taste of the bad, just like you said when you guys went 0-12. That really fueled you. I think they're at that point, and I think that energy that they had at home, that energy that they had on the sideline, the fact that Gus said they were playing free, which was something we talked about, is those guys having the confidence to play free. I think that's going to be super important. I think that's going to carry through, and I think it's going to give us the dub. So that's my pick, my poison for this week. So that leaves us, because we're skipping over I guess we could do the Big 12 update. I don't have that ready. Trey, why don't you quiz Noah on some UCF knowledge? So I'm going to put Noah on the hot seat. Noah, go ahead, Trey, and
couple of questions that we mentioned earlier. See if you were paying attention,
Okay.
like a college student should.
Okay.
Who do we refer to as the best quarterback in UCF history?
Name.
I'll give you three options: Blake Bortles, Dante Culpepper, John Rice Plumlee. I'll give you four, and Mackenzie Milton.
Milton.
Okay, correct. Okay, you were listening. What's another one that I can think of? What was referencing Coach O'Leary? How early did he want us to show up to meetings that I mentioned?
He showed up 30 minutes early.
30 minutes. Perfect. You were listening. Okay. Do you remember what his nickname was amongst the players?
White Horse.
Roger, this guy listens, man. I'm not gonna lie. I don't even remember what we were talking about 30 minutes before the break.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, we had 15 minutes after we had that unscheduled break that we couldn't remember what we were talking about either. But I'm going to call that age. So he should be remembering all of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you have his Scantron out? Are you checking his Scantron?
Man, y'all use Scantron still?
Yeah.
Pink ones? Do you get the ones for free at the library or at
the
union?
Yeah, of course.
Is it still what? One a day you get for free?
I think you can get like one a day from like different places.
Places now? Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I used to go every day when I go get some food.
Dude,
even if I didn't need it, I'd get it and just keep it.
We used to have to pay for them.
Yeah, that must have been the Stone Ages or something.
It was, bro. That was what I call the mud ages, where the parking lots were not yet paved.
Really?
In 99. Yeah, like over there where engineering, all those classroom 2 and all that stuff is. That was all dirt lot over where we had the old arena. The new one wasn't built till 2007. So literally that was where all the engineering students parked. It was like a dirt lot. It wasn't paved. Like that was back in 99. Like,
So did y'all have Memory Mall? Like, was it still called Memory Mall?
It wasn't. I don't think it was called Memory Mall at that time. I don't think we had that. I think that was all later. We certainly didn't tailgate there. I can tell you that because we were at the citrus dump. And so we tailgated amongst the homeless and, try to avoid getting carjacked downtown. But yeah, I mean, I just remember that was back when, the first, that was before Fast and Furious, when everybody really started into JDMs and started lowering their cars like all the way to the ground, had far pipes on the back of them. I had American Muscle, so I didn't play in that crowd. But it was so funny because it was uneven, and when it rained, which in Florida it rains like every afternoon, they'd be driving and they were so low to the ground, like that they'd go a little slight hill and they'd get their exhaust in the little puddle, and it would like blow bubbles like they were farting. So the fart pipes. So that was UCF back in the day. Still had parking problems back then. Although today you can't do what we did back then, which was we would actually pull up by the buildings, and all that stuff's closed off now. And by the parking garages, we'd wait for people to come out and start walking to their cars in the garage, and we'd offer them a ride to their car to steal their parking space.
Smart.
So that's how we did parking back then. But you can't do that these days. You get shot, right? So like back in my day, you know what I mean?
People aren't that friendly anymore.
No, you can't do that anymore. So, all the shenanigans that happen over there. So, but we also didn't have 70,000 students. I think at that time we were around 32,000, something like that. And half of them were wearing like Miami colors or Florida State colors or UF colors or whatever. And we'd make fun of them. So, that being said, I am ready for the Big 12 scoreboard this week. If you guys are, so Texas, number 7, Texas beat TCU 29-26. That was a lot closer game than you would expect. Typical Baylor Big 12 game. TCU scored 6, so 2 field goals in the first, did not score in the second, did not score in the third, and scored 20 points in the fourth. And Texas scored all their points in the first half and scored 3 points in the fourth. So it was a tale of two halves, just like it was everywhere else. Obviously, UCF beat Oklahoma State 45-3. They had 1 field goal, which is nice to see. 0-0-3-0. Texas Tech, as we mentioned earlier, 16-13. They scored 10 early, 0 in the second. 3 in the third, 3 in the fourth, and Kansas scored all 13 points in the fourth quarter, and they were actually tied. Oklahoma, number 17, Oklahoma, 59-20 on West Virginia. I still don't know.
Dylan, I think Dylan scored. He had 8 touchdowns, which I think was the first time in almost 20 years or something crazy.
Yeah, Jesus. I think Dylan was peeved. Because
his Heisman chances were gone last week.
Yeah, honestly, his Heisman chances were probably gone after us because we played them so close. But we've played so many teams so close. This team has been on the cusp. It's just we've been waiting on the defense to figure it out, and we finally did. Kansas State, number 25, beat Baylor 59-25. That was the kind of score we should have had. We were whooping Baylor until the fourth quarter. Cincinnati beat the University of Houston 24-14, which is so weird because Houston has a couple of leftover 8 wins, but 24-14. So that bodes well again for us, no matter what, to make sure that we get bowl eligible. And then Iowa State beat BYU 45-13. Iowa State has been terrible. And the last, let me say this. They started off terrible, and they've played well for the past 4 or 5 games. BYU's been all over the place. So it's been really, really interesting with BYU. They've been really competitive, and then at times they're not. So as far as the standings are concerned, here's something crazy. Had we finished the game with Baylor, we would be tied for 6th right now in the league. Right now, we are tied for 9th in the Big 12 conference. And that's just because we have so many different teams in the Big 12 conference. Texas is number 1 at 6-1. Oklahoma State 5-2. They still have a chance. Oklahoma 5-2. Iowa State 5-2, so they're all tied for 3rd. Then it's Kansas State 5-2. So there's 4 teams in the running for 2nd place right now for the championship. West Virginia is 4-3. Then Texas Tech 4-3. So they actually did better in conference than they did out of conference, which is also interesting. Yeah. TCU is 2-5. Houston so that's for quote unquote 6th place, but really 3rd place. All those teams are pretty much tied. For us, we are tied in 4th place, I guess you could say. 2-5 TCU, 2-5 Houston, 2-5 Baylor, 2-5 BYU, 2-5 UCF, and the 1-6 Cincinnati Bearkins. So that's a wrap for this week. The Big 12 is showing to be what the Big 12 is, which is typically something that has a lot of parity in the league. So that's the Big 12 super recap by Alan, the better looking Alan, as we established earlier. And we're going to finish up with the UCF Athletic Sports update. So, Noah, did you find the notes that were prepared? Do you have them up?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to allow you to get those final 3 bullet points on the Big 12 update. So you're going to take center stage to finish out the show. So go ahead, Noah, intern Noah. Go ahead and finish those 3 bullet points for us. And if you noticed, I was giving you time to find them.
Found it. UCF men's soccer hosts as a 12 seed in the conference tournament. Marshall, number 1 seed, and may play West Virginia University to advance. Will play November 19th at the Plex versus Vermont Rider.
Okay, so let me explain that, right? So
Yes.
I shorthanded that. So basically, UCF men's soccer hosts at the Plex. They're going to be playing versus Vermont/Rider. They are the number 12 seed. Remember, they were number 1 team in the country a couple weeks ago, but were ousted early in the in the championship game. Marshall took back over as the number 1 seed. They were number 1 seed for most of it. And if UCF beats Vermont/Rider, we have a date with West Virginia to advance again. All right, go ahead. Bullet number 2.
UCF women's hoops win on the 6th versus BCU 101-63. Whoa. Played Anderson at home, led by 2 at the half, and finished 96-73. UCF women's volleyball 17-9, 8-7 in conference, got swept by the number 12 BYU 0-3. Yikes.
All right, so he did miss one word. It's like whoa, nitro. So see, so that's a song reference. You missed like whoa, but that's okay. You got that 100% correct. Played Anderson at home tonight. I was actually checking the score as we were prepping for the 97-63. So they're putting up points. They were actually tied, or not tied. They were up by 2 at the half. So they really put it on the latter part of the game. And then UCF women's volleyball, just to clarify, is 17-9 after the hot start, 8-7 in conference, and did get swept by number 12 BYU 0-3 twice at home. Unfortunately for the ladies, as they've gotten in conference play, it's been a little bit more tough. However, because you're in a tougher conference, your RPI goes up, even with the losses, and that's why they call it the quality loss. So Big 12 loss, even though it's a sweep to the number 12 BYU Cougars, is not really going to hurt us as much RPI wise. So still in the hunt for NCAA tournament, but not the results that we're used to. But remember, guys, new coach, same coach got promoted, new team, a lot of new players. McKenna Millville is no longer on this team, but they're still playing really, really well. All right, and that will do it for us for this week. Sans Josh, sans the worst looking Alan. And, I'm going to have to do some editing after this to make sure that I get rid of that big pause that you guys will not get to see. Noah, thank you so much for joining us this week. Thank you for accepting the challenge of putting up with our shenanigans as we, continue our march throughout the season. We're excited to have you and help us make this show better. Trey, as always, appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
Thank you for showing up on time. I mean, early by an hour, guys. One of the show things that you guys don't get to see is I'm always going in between Central and Eastern. I'm in Eastern time right now, and totally told Noah the wrong time an hour early when we usually record. And Trey was gracious enough to show up only 12 minutes after he said it would be 5 minutes. So thank goodness the other 2 were actually out this week. So super excited about next week. I do believe we win against Texas Tech. Or Tortilla Tech. It'll be our first meeting, I believe, in Bellringer Stadium. And if you have not check those videos out, please make sure you check them out. I know Noah did. I saw the smile on his face. It's very entertaining. So thank you all again for a great week. Go Knights and
charge on.
Charge on.
All right, delayed Noah, charge on. We get to talk for a few seconds after this. This is just what we do. Josh usually talks about random stuff, and Taylor Swift and all that kind of stuff.